All right, I have a Triassic footprint right in the middle of the three layers of the red bed, the gray clay, and the black cap. Red bed, the gray clay was pushed down through with a human footprint, and then the black cap came on top. It's right here. Now, and I have even feet from the Triassic because I am on the dead top of the Triassic era. That's exactly where I am right there. Middletown, Connecticut. Exposed Triassic rock. It's just laying all over my property. I always wondered why it was so everywhere. I mean, it is everywhere. And here's Dinosaur State Park right here. And you're going to hear me argue with the guy from Dinosaur State Park, and he refused to examine this. And this is what I have found, because it changes everything, and nobody wants to examine something that makes them look like they didn't know what they were doing. This is the origins of dinosaur dominance in Connecticut Rift Valley. Lower red bed, gray clay, black cap. It's exactly what it is. Red bed, gray clay pushed through the red bed, and the black cap came on top. All three happened very quickly because they were all soft at the same time. It all came into one piece. And this is worldwide, not just here in Connecticut. This basically proves the worldwide Great Flood, and they called it the Great Dying. All right, I'm going to show you this is just not accurate. There was a Great Dying, absolutely, and it did happen at the Triassic three-layer extinction event. Most severe mass extinction in Earth's history. They say 252 million years ago. I don't agree with that. Wiping out about 90% of all species. Basically, they said it wiped out everything, because it was only jellyfish type things that were here. There was no bones, no teeth, no shells, no nothing. It was just slimy creatures. The petri dish idea of evolution. Well, that's not true. I can prove it's not true. All right, just so you know, this is the Triassic. This is the red bed right here. All right, and this is the gray clay, which is supposed to be on top of the red bed. And this footprint right there got pushed down through that red bed. So that gray clay, which is supposed to be on top, is now down below. They had to be wet at the same time. And then this black cap, the black cap was from the fallout and landed on the gray clay pushed down. So the three layers came down basically at the same time, and it was called the Great Extinction. Now, I have done all the research on this. I have also specimens here of giant human beings. That is a giant hand, a left hand from a human being. That's the cleave right in there. That's the tendon that runs down, right down the center. You have one too. Just put your hand back like that. You see it. That's where the thumb goes. That's where the small finger goes, the little finger. It's broken off probably somewhere up in this area. It's laying flat like that. This gray stuff here is a grip skin, and it peels off because it's a different type of skin. This is the small hand. I have a fingertip. It's as big as this. All right, I have this is the fingertips from this. They're small. They're small enough to have CAT scanned. And I did have a CAT scan by Jesse Garant and Associates, the best people in the world for CAT scans. They did 2D, which this is, and 3D, 7 different specimens. And they did it at no charge because they knew of the importance of this. And it's been overlooked by everybody. This is a tendon, which is that's a little blood vessel right below. This is probably the artery side, but I'm not certain. And this is the dark blood, and I think that is the vein side, and of course that's the little vein tube. This is the bone. Now the 2D you can see pretty well, the 3D not so well. This was also done by Jesse Garant and Associates, a 3D. Now remember I showed you the bone was right at the edge over here? And there you can see the bone, you can see the shadow of it, but that's about the best you're going to do. This is a process called nucleophilic invasion and substitution. So whatever this was impacted in, which in this case was mud, it invaded and changed the contents basically to mud. However, the membranes and even the skin, where there's skin left, it doesn't get invaded like it does the rest. The membrane lets the stuff come through, but it doesn't change like the rest of the body parts. It's a strange situation. Now, this was the gigantic fingertip. It's 3 feet long from here to here. 3 feet long. This is what freaked them all out. And I had this DNA tested too. I had to break off this piece right off the edge, and this is the fingernail. And it's nicely kept. It was in good shape. And there's the little pad between your fingers so they don't scrub together. Vein and artery. I popped that off. That's where the only place I could see was a crack. And you got to get deep inside to get any good blood. It's like I tried to get people to DNA test this. They won't do it because they know they're going to get attacked by academics. Oh, you contaminated it. It's the same thing that happened when I had my DNA test done. And I did them very carefully, and I went deep inside, and they said the DNA was excellent quality because I did go deep inside. I don't go from the surface. So that's the fingertip. Now here's the grip skin. Remember I talked about grip skin peeling off? Don't forget this. That's grip skin. It's on your fingertips. It's all of your hands and your feet. It's a real tough, and it peels right off because there's no real blood to it. It's just like a rubber glove. And here's what it looks like right here. That's grip skin. Keratinized, very grippy and tough, a lot of silicon. And then you have sweat pores that allow the sweat out. Here it is right here. This is a fingerprint that I broke off. It still has the fingerprints on it. You see that? It's as wide as my thumb. One fingerprint ridge. This thing's 3 feet long. That thing was gigantic, that creature. And all of that stuff is written about in the ancient texts. And not a single academic will respond to any of this. It's because it overthrows everything that they have been telling us. Literally everything. About our history, about geology, about God. That's the killer. They don't like God in the academia. They just don't like it. They just do not like God. And this was all written about in the past. They said there'll be false teachers among you, and they'll deny God. And they'll make you say that in order to get your piece of paper. And that's basically what's going on right now. If you go in there and start talking about these kind of things I talk about, they fail you. And they tell everybody else you're a failure. So that's, to me, that's sort of ruining your life. All right, so it's time to bring this out in the open and have people be able to talk realistically about our real world. And this is right here on the top of my earth. I've been telling people for years. I said, I'm right there. I said, I don't know why. All the stuff is just laying here. So there's other places where the Triassic is right on the surface too. They should be able to walk around and find these Triassic exposed rocks. They're not really rocks. They're body parts that have fossilized. And of course you got the 3 layers, but you're going to find there's body parts laying everywhere. Literally everywhere. I mean, just basically every rock. Pick it up. If you look carefully, you're going to find it's something like Caesar here. All right, when I first looked at that, I said, wow, that's a strange looking rock. And then I kept looking. I said, that could be a goose or something. And then I looked up here and I said, wow, there's his feathers. There's where the feathers are on the back of his head. And then I looked a little closer and I found his artery here going up to his head. And this here is where his throat is. You can see it in the shadows, but it's nucleophilic invasion. It goes through the outside membranes. So the membranes stay what's called feldspar, which is nothing more than collagens. And they allow the penetration. I call it fascia, which is nothing more than fascia. Fascia, collagens, and I call it fascia-facilitated fossilization. I wrote that paper in 2015. It's up on academia.edu. And it talks about the invasion process that is the nucleophilic substitution, which creates a different chemistry inside. Then obviously it's not flesh anymore, it's turned to stone. And that's Caesar. And I got so many things here, it's just incredible. And bones and so forth. That's a bone. All right, that's a bone. Cartilage is still there. That's because of the nucleophilic invasion. Once you have a membrane around something, it protects it. And it allowed, in this particular case, hot, salty, silica-rich oceans, soaking for a long time, it penetrated, boiled out all the red stuff, so all the red stuff created a bed, and then all the other floaty stuff around laid on that bed, and then the black cap of all the fallout from the impact of the gigantic comet-like thing that hit Earth almost came down. And at the time, the whole Earth turned into gigantic floods. It was the great dying. Nobody's denying this, just like the guy from Dinosaur State Park will say, well, I'm not denying it, I just don't care about it. I don't want to see it. I'm not an expert at that. Well, he's an expert at the Dinosaur State Park, dinosaur tracks, but these are human footprints, no interest. I told him, I said, it's just not right, my friend. It's absolutely not right. I tell you, this has been a very, very hard time. 10 years I've had this evidence. I had the DNA tests, the CAT scans, everything done. I had all the specimens, and everything was here. And not a single one will look at it. Not a single one. And when I went to the radio stations and the TV station, all that same thing, they just did not respond, or they said, what did they say at Dinosaur State Park? What did they say at Yale? And I would say they won't look at it, and then they just never respond back, because they say, well, because you're an idiot, you're showing us some piece of dirt saying it's a dinosaur, or whatever I'm saying. I mean, dinosaurs were, forget the dinosaurs. I have things that are, no question, they're real. And they're in the same Triassic rock. We've been misled, and it's by design now. It's not by accident. It's not just because they're incompetent. I thought they were just incompetent. Not incompetent. They just don't care. They know it's going to change everything about their world, just like that, because everything they have been taught and have believed is not true. Okay, my outstanding friends, I am going to show you the Triassic extinction period and academia's response to the evidence that changes everything. Okay, my friends, I have right here the Triassic era right in front of you, and it happened all at the same time. From the red bed, the gray clay was on top, got pushed through, and the black cap landed on top of this, what seems to be a human footprint, which is right in the middle of the three layers. That's the red bed, and it is red. And this is the gray clay, and it is gray. And the gray clay is supposed to be on top of the red bed. However, this gray clay got pushed down through the red bed, so they were obviously wet at the same time. And you can actually see the red is on the top, the gray is pushed down through. So this is not a 50 million year extinction event. All three of these things happen virtually like very, very quick, very, very quick. And that is basically what I would consider probably a human footprint. These are the balls of the guy's feet. It might have like an opposable thumb or something like that, I don't know. And I don't think it had toes. And that's what I have found in my other specimens, which I call no toes, which are these, and they don't have toes. Now, I drilled in there to get some DNA. I do deep, because I have DNA tested my other specimens, and they are human. And now they refuse to do it because academics got so upset about this, because it changes everything they've taught you about your history and about geology and about God. That was the big thing. That one there really threw them for a loop, because this shows this is the great dying, the great flood. This is recorded in all of the ancient texts. And they won't test this. I drilled in there. I drill in deep enough to where you're going to get some blood. And the toes have all the blood. And I think there is toes inside of here. Look, this is their feet. They even have their own souls built into them. At one point in time, life on Earth was completely different. And that's exactly what they say at Yale. There was a time, nothing basically from that time exists now. The animals are totally different. It was a whole new population of animals. And that is from the Yale paper. That was a year after my paper, which I presented all my evidence to Yale. DNA tests, CAT scans, specimens. They would not examine it and just sent me away. The same thing happened with Dinosaur State Park, which I had a huge discussion with him this morning, which I am going to play. I told him I was taping it, and he said, well, if you want to. And I said, yes, I do. And you're going to hear it. It's not pleasant. Okay, my friends, I started off this morning with sort of a hostile phone call to Dinosaur State Park, said, I want a response. I've been trying to get them to look at this Triassic footprint. And I got kind of hostile. And I said, if I don't get a response today, there's going to be some serious repercussions. Well, in the middle of making my video about why they won't look at it, he did call. And I had recorded that, and you're going to hear it. And they just don't care. No, I get the same thing from everybody right across the board. Oh, you got to go see this guy. You got to go see this guy. You got to go see this guy. Then they say, no, go to the television stations. This is what the guy told me. He said, go to the television station. I said, you study this stuff? This is what you do, Triassic rock footprints, and you won't look at a human footprint in there? He said, no, we just do dinosaurs. We just do dinosaurs. I said, you kidding me? Are you serious? And it got kind of heated. Well, he actually was very quiet. No, that's all we do is dinosaurs. I said, whoa. And this is, this is what they're looking at, same stuff, only mine is a human footprint, which wipes everything they tell them off the table. So all they're doing is teaching nonsense and refusing to engage with reality. Same thing happened to me at Yale. Same thing happened to me at every university. They said, you got to go to Yale Peabody Museum. This guy said the same thing. He said, go to Yale Peabody Museum. I said, I went there. They wouldn't talk to me. Same thing, you won't talk to me. You won't examine it. You won't. I said, I'll bring it to you. Will you look at it? No, I don't look at those kind of things. I said, it's absolutely incredible what academia has done to education. Destroyed it. Absolutely destroyed it. It's you say what I tell you to say, or we will destroy your life. We won't give you this piece of paper that says you're smart. And it's just a disgrace. It really is. It's very, very, very hard to accept. Okay, my outstanding friends, look at this carefully. This, as I will show you in a little greater detail, is a human-ish or possibly totally human footprint. It even has the balls of the feet and everything, all the little details. I have a little moisture on here so you can see that this is two different types of material. And you can see right there, that's gray clay. This is what's called the red bed, and it is red, just nothing but red mud. This footprint was pushed down through the mud when it was just literally wet mud. So this would normally have been wet red mud. And then above that was what was called the gray clay. So you'd have a layer of red, a layer of gray, and this guy stepped on that layer of gray, and it had, there's a little scoopy stuff on the top, gooey stuff that covered the gray. But he pushed the gray down through the red bed, which means, no question whatsoever, this was wet and is different material than this. And they were both wet at the same time. And you will see the gray clay is here. And that is about as gray clay as you're going to get. All right, so that got pushed down. And this, as I put a little water on there, you'll see that the key to seeing these things well is water. What you just saw was that footprint pushed down through the gray clay. Well, it pushed down some extra red bed with it. That's the gray clay down there, see? That should have been on top. Well, now it's on the bottom. So now we have the gray clay below the red bed. Not supposed to be that way. It's supposed to be red bed at the very bottom, then the gray clay on top, then the black cap, which I also have. And the black cap was just flawlessly attached to that footprint. That, my friends, is the red bed, the gray clay, and now I'm going to show you the black cap that just came right off. It's just basically sitting right on top of that. And I know why all these sequence of events happen. And this right here, I'm going to put down the red bed. I'll put that to bed, as we say. This is the balls of the guy's foot. This is his heel. These little bumpy things are what I call suck-ups. And what happened was there was some kind of scaled slimy stuff on the top of this after the gray clay settled. And then whatever this scale is came on top. It might be bacteria growing, I don't know. And he hit it like this. His heel hit first, he went forward, pew, like that. Might have had an opposing thumb or something going off of this. It could have been a fork, I don't know what it was. But it does seem to have no toes, which I do have things that I call no toes. And they're right here. Now my layer here in Connecticut, I am right on the top of the Triassic layer, exposed. And I just picked the stuff off the ground. You do a little research and you find out this is exactly the area where this could happen. And it did happen, and this shows that there was human beings here, or some kind of creature here, when the Triassic zone happened. And the Triassic didn't take 50 million years. It took like a weekend or something, because all three were wet at the same time. Let me show you the black cap. Don't forget, this is it right here. This is the red bed, the gray clay. You see the gray right there? With the suck-ups. All those little things are suck-ups. Red bed. There's the gray clay, which just got pushed all the way down. And there's where the suck-ups are, because he hit it when it was a little slurpy here, and it pulled up all these little suck-ups. Right. You see on the sides you don't see them because there's no suction there. There's no suction there. But in the middle you got the suck-ups. All right, now I have had a very difficult time having anybody to examine this, to say they're experts and they have all their own opinions. And actually, I'm going to find out later today. I said if it doesn't get taken care of today, it's going to get serious, and it will get serious, because there's people that are supposed to be doing their job, just not doing their job. I saw this today and I thought, wow, it's time to just bring this to a head. It's ridiculous. The things that I have discovered here in the Triassic zone, which I am right on the Triassic zone. Ooh, this could be the guy.
Hello, how are you?
Good, my friend. How are you?
All right.
Hey, I'm recording this. Is that okay?
I mean, I guess if you want to, you can.
Yeah, I do want to, because this is a huge, huge discovery. If it's taken to, somebody's got to look at it, and I have had a.
And so, what is the discovery?
Did you see the email that I sent you with the pictures of the human footprint in the Triassic?
So a human footprint. So we do have a lot of dinosaur footprints in Triassic rock.
I know. I've done my research. I know about the red bed, the gray clay, the black cap. I have it all here, and it is with a human footprint in between. And the red bed was wet at the same time as the gray clay was wet, and the black cap came right on top.
So I'm not really an expert in any of those human footprints being found in that. We really just focus on the dinosaur tracks.
What does that mean? That's insanity. This is a huge, huge, huge discovery.
If it is, then you would probably want to let the news reporters know.
I've tried everybody, my friend. I have tried everybody, and they point back to you people. They always, go to Dinosaur State Park, go to the experts. I do, and they do exactly the same thing you're doing. This is disgraceful. You should look at this. Trust me, I will bring this to a head, my friend. You are not going to get away with this bullshit.
We focus on educating about dinosaurs.
I don't care what you focus on. You're supposed to be an expert. You are working with the government. I will have that place shut down. You understand me? This is not going to last anymore. This is ridiculous. I have gone through this for 10 years.
Sure, our mission is to focus on the dinosaur tracks, the dinosaurs.
Oh, you're doing a great job. You're doing a great job. Focus on nothing.
It's the dinosaur tracks that were discovered in 1966.
I know what they are. I have done more research on this than you have, my friend. I know everything about this.
Well, that's great. I'm really glad that you've been able to do that. That's not really our focus. Our focus is really more on the dinosaur tracks.
Yeah, not paying attention to reality.
I'm saying that if you think it's a really good discovery, then you should contact the news reporters and the news stations, and if you wanted to, you can try to contact the Peabody also, because they're a lot more experts on.
They are nothing but they are the worst people that ever walked the face of this planet. I tried to work with Derek Briggs. You know who he is?
I'm sorry, you're cutting out. What was that?
I said I tried to work with Derek Briggs at Yale. They said the same thing that they always say, you got to go to this guy, you got to go to that guy. I went, he refused to examine anything, just like you, just like every single geologist, just like every single archaeologist. I have 222,000 subscribers on my channel, and I am going to blast you, my friend, with your name, that you are not doing your job, and you don't care about reality.
Well, I am not denying anything. All I'm saying is that...
All you're saying is you won't take a look. You don't care. That's what you're saying. You're making statements.
I never said that. If you listen to the recording, I never said that.
Well,
so
I agree. I'm sorry.
And you're getting a little bit aggressive.
Yeah, absolutely.
The way that it is.
It's been 10 years. It's been 10 years. I have had DNA tests done. I have CAT scans done on my specimens that I have here. And not a single person will refuse. The DNA tests were positive, and the reason they won't look at it is because it doesn't fall into your timeline.
One of the best things to do, though, if you want to get the word out, is to if you've had these tests done on it, one of the best things to do is to write a scientific article.
I did. It's posted on. It's on Academia EDU, and it's been there since 2015. And it was called Fascia Facilitated Fossilization, and it describes the whole thing. It's all about nucleophilic substitution and invasion. Yale also agrees with my determination of how these exceptionally preserved fossils were preserved, but they won't talk to me. They say the only exceptional preservation was to slimy little creatures. I have actual human being body parts. I have all kinds of stuff, and nobody will look at it, and you're doing the same thing you're doing. Oh, go to see somebody else. See somebody else. How can you live with yourself, my friend?
But you're asking me, and I'm not the expert in it.
If you looked at this, would you please look at it? Let me just ask you this. If I brought this to you, would you please examine it and give me your expert opinion? Because would you consider yourself an expert?
At this point, with your responses, I'm not confident if I gave you my expert, whatever that means to you, my expert opinion. I'm not a paleontologist. I'm an environmental scientist and a geologist.
Right. You understand the red beds. You understand the Berlin Basin, the whole 9 yards. I am writing.
But I'm not. But what we really focus on here are the dinosaur tracks, and that's what I'm focused on educating about those. And we don't really do validation of fossils here.
I'm not asking for validation. I'm asking for your personal opinion. You guys are funded by the government. This is not a good time to not be doing your job, my friend.
We are a state park, and so we're funded by the state park.
Yeah, by the state park. But part of that comes from the government. It's just a bad time not to do your job, not to care about reality.
But this is not my job. My job is as the environmental education coordinator at Dinosaur State Park is to be focusing on the exhibits at Dinosaur State Park, focusing on the educational programs at Dinosaur State Park around the Eubrontes tracks that were discovered and the related dinosaur tracks. That's my job.
Okay, all right. That's a fair statement, but this doesn't mean anything to you.
I am being considerate of your interest in this, and I'm not denying anything that you're saying. And I'm encouraging you that if you believe that this is a very interesting discovery that you've made, then you should continue to write papers on it. If you want to let the newspapers and the TV stations know about it, so that they can start reporting on it.
All right, good. I'll say that you recommended that I should contact them.
If that's what you want to do, then those are the things.
I'm just going to say that you recommended.
What I'm trying to say is that we are not the location for that. That's not our mission.
Right. So I'm going to contact everybody, the senators, everybody. I'm going to contact.
Yeah, if you want to, you can.
All of them, every single one of them. I'm going to tell them the kind of resistance that I meet from every one of you people.
Programs that we're doing here and working with state parks about conservation and the wildlife and the nature, and of course the dinosaur tracks, the Dinosaur State Park. What you're talking about is not really in our mission at this point.
You got to be kidding me, my friend. This is just unbelievable. Well, you look at your little dinosaur tracks, and trust me, this is not going to end well. I'm sorry to be so aggressive, but if you have been in my footprints here, I spent a ton of money, I wrote all the papers, I contacted all the people, and every single time, 100%, I get the same thing as I'm getting from you. And when I went to the papers and all that stuff, first of all, they wouldn't contact me back. When I pushed it, they said, you got to get a hold of an expert to say what you got there. And I say, they won't talk to me. So they won't talk to me.
But the thing is that I'm talking to you right now, Roger. And I'm telling you that that's not our role. It's like you wanting to find out about cows and you going to somebody that is studying birds.
No, I would go to somebody that was studying a farm. I would go to a farmer. I would go to somebody that was an expert at doing what they're supposed to do. And you're supposed to be an expert at these footprints in this Triassic rock, which I have, and those are just because they're dinosaur footprints. What's the difference?
But this is what I'm telling you. You can't tell me what my job is. I'm telling you what my job is.
Okay, good. Do your job and forget about reality. I'm just going to leave you alone, my friend. But trust me, this is going to hit the internet big time. I'm going to post this.
I will say that it is very good that you're looking for these things and doing your own research and trying to really understand what happened in the past, because the past is very important to the present, but also the future as well, to understand those things. So I commend you for doing that. I'm just saying that it's not really our focus to look at those sorts of things. We really try to focus on the dinosaur tracks.
Okay. Have you ever been in politics?
No, I'm not a politician.
Oh, yes, you are.
No, I'm not. I'm just being honest with you.
No, you're not. You just don't want to address reality, and because it's such a big bump to the things that you guys have been saying, you're just not right. You guys are just totally wrong, and you just don't want to admit you're wrong. And you want to use the kids and take advantage of all the kids that are going to school and tell them things that aren't true. I know your job is not about that. You're saying we want to educate them on their little footprints. Those things were parasites. What you're looking at is parasite tracks. The things that are on this earth, my friend, would blow your mind because you won't look at them, just like none of the other geologists.
From what you're saying, I know I don't know a lot about this, and so from what you're saying, you're really more of an expert on this than I am.
Yes, I am. 100%.
So I can't really help you with those things, and so that's why I'm encouraging you as the expert on these things. If you want to get the word out, then is to write more papers and to do more research as you're doing, and then to contact the news stations.
Well, I'm going for Goach and Trump and somebody that is going to stand up and push this, because there's nobody that cares about reality anymore. It's become a disgraceful place to live now. Academia is the most, it's just terrible. They're perfectly happy diluted. PhD is perfectly happy diluted. They have PhD-olia. They can't see what's in front of their face, and they don't care. As long as they're getting their paycheck and everything's good, who cares about the kids? Teach them anything you want. That's my attitude now, my friend, and I have found this for 10 years minimum. And I started with Yale because they said, I have to go to Yale. This is the guy you got to go through. His name is Derek Briggs. You want to call him? Call him and ask him. And look up his paper called Exceptional Preservation of Soft-Bodied Creatures, which he calls Edicarta biota. And he found them in the Triassic layer just before the Great Dying, and everything on Earth basically died. And it died from a great flood, which caused all three of these layers to be wet at the same time. The red bed was wet, and then on top of that laid the gray clay. My footprint pushed that gray clay down through the red bed, and on top landed the black cap, which is the fallout from the impact that we almost got hit by a huge, huge comet. And the three layers happened all at the same time. It's the only possibility. If you looked at what I showed you, I sent you a video, and within the first minute, you will see undeniable evidence of what I'm saying. I'm putting this out today. I'm going to record this and put this out and show my evidence and your responses to my evidence. It's just not right, my friend. I'm not trying to be nasty to you. I know the position you're in. Nobody wants to stand up. because they're going to say, oh, this guy's crazy. No, I'm not crazy. The people that won't look.
I never said that.
I know that. I know. I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but trust me, I'm so frustrated at this point.
But Roger, you are. I'm trying to do my job, which is I have a class coming up in about 10 minutes, or a little bit less than 10 minutes, about 5 minutes, and I am encouraging you to continue the science that you're doing.
Okay, good. Would you work with me a little bit? Would you work with me at all?
But that's not my role to do that.
I don't care.
I'm an environmental education coordinator at Connecticut State.
And you have no interest in this at all.
But that's not my role.
I don't care. You don't have an interest in it. That's my pressure. As an expert in this field.
I have enough work right now because of
oh my God,
the limited staff that we have at Dinosaur State Park. So I really need to focus on that.
All right, Mike. I'll leave you alone, but I got a feeling you'll be hearing from somebody, because I'm not going to let this go, my friend. It's just insanity. Anyway, I do appreciate.
I took the time to call you back to talk about it.
Okay, good. No, I appreciate
from doing the work that you're doing.
Okay.
I encourage you to continue whatever work you're doing so that you can really come to the facts of the matter and what you're studying. It's not my role, and it's not my job to do that. So I'm trying to help you and encourage you, and I'm not saying don't do it.
Yeah, but nobody pays attention. So I spent a ton of money. It's been 10 years,
But
Mike.
I called you back because I'm paying attention to you.
Okay, well, you're not helping at all. You're dismissing reality, my friend. And now, for what reason, I don't know. I can't imagine people not being interested in this, especially when this is what you do. You look at footprints in the mud, and you say these were dinosaurs. And if you look this footprint in the same mud you're looking at is a human footprint, and you're not interested in that, I find that very, very difficult to accept. And for what reason you would deny to look at this is mysterious to me. But I do see this across the board with academics. They have no interest in something that can change the things that they were told. It's called menticide.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to be. I know I get aggressive. Yeah, absolutely. You have no idea, my friend. I have over 3,000 videos. Mm-hmm. I have 222,000 subscribers, and never once, zero, have I ever had any academic respond, because I have the evidence to show that they're completely wrong. And there were giants on this earth. It proves a lot of the stuff that they had in these ancient texts and the Bibles. The first words out of Derek Briggs's mouth was, "What are you, a creationist?" And I said, "What are you talking about? I have no idea what you're talking about."
I've not called you that. And I'm continue to do the research and the work that you're doing. I'm sorry, I have to go because I have to go to the class right now and set up.
Okay, good. Teach the children.
I appreciate reaching out.
All right,
it was good to talk to you.
Teach the children well, my friend.
All right, thank you.
Okay, take care, Mike. All right, bye-bye. Oh boy, this is unbelievable. I made some claims when I was talking to the guy at Dinosaur State Park that I wrote the paper on fascia-facilitated fossilization, which is mud fossils are exact copies of the original creature separated on fascia and skin separation planes. They're not complete bodies normally. They're bits and pieces, but they have a fascia coating around them. The ancients used to call it tunica. And I talk about all the different fibers and the collagens and keragens, and they all come together as one system. A lot of silicon in this stuff, and 50 times more silicon in the surrounded feldspar. It's aluminum silicates. Aluminum silicates is the reason it's that, because it was phospholipids originally, and it boiled down to aluminum silicates. In this same paper, I point out the fact nobody knew about this fluid-filled highway. I could only see it. The only way you could see it is in gigantic mud fossils. It was very obvious. And I said fascia is a tubular, fluid-filled fabric network. That's fluid-filled highway, they call it now. Instantly reconfigures itself if it's damaged or pulled apart And at the time, I was thinking, it appears as if a fiber optic wired network is redirecting the broken fibers and wires somehow by itself. And I have come to the point where fascia is intelligent, there's no question. In that fascia fluid-filled highway, there's little creatures that go and they do work, whether the fibers themselves know enough to reconfigure or whether they're being reconfigured by some other little bacteria or something. But I can show, and I have shown, when a toxin invades vital flesh, it gets flooded, absolutely flooded with these fluids that are in this fascia network. So this was nobody knew about this fluid-filled layer until 2018. They called it a newfound organ. They called it the interstitium. Well, this was 2015. Was my paper did two things here. The fascia facilitated fossilization. That's the membranes. That's what almost all rocks are coated with aluminum feldspar. Hold on a second. You see this? Feldspar. It's aluminum silicates. Aluminum and the silicon. The silicon came up from the deep ocean. It's not in the waters as much as it was then, because there's a siliceous ooze that coats the ocean floor. When we almost got impacted, that supersaturated the waters and caused everything to create the mud fossils using this silicates. And here's the deal. Aluminum silicates, aluminum technosilicates, well, they make up 60%, which is feldspar. They make up 60% of the Earth's crust. That's not true. It's inside of all of that feldspar is primarily, there's basalt, they call that rhyolites, and all these different names they have for them, but it's the coating of all the rocks is feldspar, because those are membranes. They're membranes. They were invaded and turned the inside into stone. All right, different types of stone. And they're all continental crust, magma, extrusive, intrusive, always magma. They throw that in because they can never explain these. But that coats virtually all rock, 60%. And I also said that I gave all my work to Yale. I tried to present it, and I did. I presented it, and he finally said, well, all you got is rocks. He said, well, why don't you find a geologist? I'm not kidding you. Now, this is Yale News. This is 2016. They're just announcing their big discovery they made about Ediacara biota, which just means soft-body creatures. They're saying it was a complex sea creatures lived in a warm, slimy, planetary petri dish. Yes, they want to present the evolutionary nonsense that there was no creatures here on Earth. There was no giants. There was no big flood. But there was, everything was coated with a sea, and it made the mud fossils, but they only would admit to slimy little sea creatures. All right, don't forget, I presented all my stuff to Yale, and then in 2016, they're taking credit for the fact that things do solidify and all this stuff. And it's a complex sea creatures and exotic species in a planetary petri dish. Yes, you can read what it says here. They say a Yale-led research team found an Ediacara biota, that's soft tissues, a collection of marine fossils. They say everything around the world was under the ocean because it was a great flood. And they say it was sandstone, it was mud. Record the operation of unusual mechanism, which is a mud fossils, preserved impressions, no, it preserved the creatures. All their soft bodies for hundreds of millions of years. It wasn't that long. The findings appear in the journal Geology. This takes its name, this Ediacara biota, just means soft tissues, from a fossil deposit in South Australia. I'm 15 minutes from Yale, refused to come look at it or have me bring it there. But I showed him all the stuff, and I showed him the DNA tests, the CAT scans, all of that stuff. And he finally said, go find a geologist. You just got rocks. All right, fossils of this Ediacardium are found worldwide. They're everywhere in this Triassic rear, in rocks ranging from the Triassic zone, what they think, 540 to 580 million years. They got about 40, 50 million years in between these layers. It took like a weekend. As I showed you, it's 3 layers all wet at the same time. It didn't take millions of years to do that. The creatures themselves were small, they say, as a few millimeters, as large as a meter. That's 3 feet. And they lived in dense, diverse communities on the sea floor. So they're saying it was worldwide, sea floor worldwide. And all there was slimy creatures. And this was before, listen to this, many of them are outright bizarre in appearance. Yeah, no toes, all kinds of things. I got giants, I got all kinds of stuff. They do not resemble any organism alive today. Now listen to this, very important. They named a school after her for doing this research, which is basically my research. Lydia Tarhan, a postdoctoral fellow at Yale, and first author of the study. And Derek Briggs was on this study too. He knew all about this stuff. I had given him all this information years prior to this. Quotation, we would like to understand their relationship with these creatures, their relationship to complex animals evolved shortly thereafter. Are these organisms some sort of failed evolutionary experiment? Yeah, they were giants and all kinds of crazy things. Or do they include the ancestors of animals subsequently colonized the oceans? Listen to this. A big part of that answer involves figuring out how they were able to form. I know exactly how. It's nucleophilic substitution and invasion through fascia-facilitated fossilization. Listen to this. The animals themselves entirely soft-bodied. They lived before. Now listen to this very, very, very carefully. Completely soft-bodied, jelly, petri dish slime. They lived before the evolution of shells. No shells. There was no teeth then. There was no bones. There was no regular creatures. They're typically the only parts of an organism to become fossilized. No, that's totally untrue. In these conditions, the soft tissues fossilize better than the bones. The bones dissolve. Totally opposite. And now they're saying that they could have turned into stone within a matter of hours or years rather than the usual time frame, thousands of millions of years. And that's because of this dissolved silica, which is what I told him. I said, this was silica-rich oceans. I showed you my paper. Ediacardium rapidly buried by sand during underwater storm events. No, it was mud, not sand, and the sand was a product of the silica binding to the blood. That's what sand is. Right? That's the silica which came up from the bottom of the ocean, binding to the sand. That's what made binding to the blood. That's what made silica. That's why there's all sand everywhere. It's blood that attached to silicon. Now, they say it happened in storm events under the ocean. No. It happened as that impact rose up all that silica from the bottom of the ocean and created all my mud fossils. And they were right at the top. And that didn't happen that long ago. Otherwise, they conducted their use using detailed microscopes. This is exactly what I showed them. And this is the guy, Derek Briggs. I gave him all my information. And this is what they're taking. And they got paid for this by NASA. And the National Science Foundation supported these things. Earth Sciences, these are all grants. Basically, that was my work, and I also presented the same work to NASA. And they wouldn't respond either. And then somehow they ended up going to Yale to see if what I was saying was true, apparently. And Yale says, yeah, it's all true, but it was only slime. I told NASA, you got the exact same stuff on Mars, which they do. The Mars Curiosity rover sent back all the pictures of the Mars crab, the Mars Morse code, the Mars blueberries, which are identical to Moki marbles, and everything there. All the layers of muscle sarcomeres are everywhere. The blood is just the powdery, dried out, bloody stuff that runs down. If you added water to that, you'd end up with clay. Same thing you have here on Earth. Mud is nothing more than deteriorated eroded, fleshy, red clay is from flesh. It's just from flesh. This is what it is. Some places have, the things that are on this earth are just undescribable, and they're not allowed to be spoken of in these realms. And this guy right here caused me a lot of headache and heartache. And I would like to see Trump speak to Derek Briggs and ask him why he did that and turn me away. Because if you look up what it is to be a true academic and a scholar and a scientist, and then you look up what academic fraud is, there's a discussion to be had there with Derek Briggs. You see this? This is NASA, from NASA, Exceptional Preservation of the Soft-Bodied. This is Tarhan. Geo World are touting, wow, we found this. Yale University, they discovered all this stuff. Here's Lydia Tarhan. They get named something after her down there at Yale. Now, that's not even the worst of it. They sent a rocket out to asteroid Bennu, picked up a sample, brought it back, and they cannot accept the results of what they found because it is biology. And there's no question it's biology. They know it. And they're just hiding from that fact. They found 16 of the, well, hold on. This is it. This is some more of our money used. National Science Foundation, Boulders and Beyond, analysis of this asteroid Bennu sample they brought back. Well, let me show you what it is, and I'll show you what muscle is. They found 16 of the 20 amino acids. They found 16,000 of the same molecules that are in the human body as there. They found this, the uracil, which is the key factor of translating DNA inside the human body, switching it around. They found all of these things that they're never going to find except if it was biology. And it is biology, and it is a heart, and it is muscle sarcomeres they brought back. I'll show you. This is what they came back with. These little white spotty layers are phosphates. They come from phospholipid membranes. These little blocky things, there's a layer, blocky, layer, blocky. These are the blocks. Those are muscle sarcomeres. They're little pinchers in the muscles. This is right from a heart, and that's what Bennu is a heart. There it is right there. You say, well, that doesn't look like a heart, it looks like a big rock. Well, these are the valves. I believe that is the aorta, the big one. And these are other valves. Now let me show you what hearts do look like. Whoops. All right, this is what hearts do look like. That's a heart. They break right off there. And you end up with this. And the reason they do is because of iron banding. There's two straps of blood vessels that run right around here, black and the red in mud fossils, and they just pop right apart because they repel each other, and you end up with this, which is psyche is right there. That's a heart. You see it? And these are tubes sticking out because they have tubes sticking out of hearts. And they show it being melted because they know it's all metals, and blood is virtually all metals. You know, except the plasma. Now, I showed you here, here's what they came back with. This is a heart sarcomeres. And here's what heart sarcomeres look like in a patient that his heart gave out. These are the sarcomeres. There's no difference whatsoever. These are layers of phosphate. And that was a phosphate surprise. Wow, we can't believe we found that. They found all of the DNA, RNA, amino acids, uracil, which is, that's the killer right there. And 16,000 chemicals. I mean, they found everything that's in the human body, and it's in blood, and it's in here. It's been here for a long time, and they're talking about studying it for decades. That is a sarcomere of muscles, and it's from a heart, which that was a heart. It's in space. I can't account for this stuff, but people don't. You know, the ancient texts talked about this stuff. So these are the things that people are hiding from. I understand it's a big jump, but what's true is true. And if you can hide out from truth and walk around in circles and you're perfectly happy, deluded, well, then I suppose you should go down to Yale and get a good job down there. They'll be happy to have you. This footprint was right through that red bed. This was the worldwide flood that was talked about in the Bible and every other text. Every culture on earth had the same story except academia, which is a culture on its own. And it has captured the minds of vulnerable people and put them in harm's way if they say, no, that's not true, that's not true. I couldn't get a job now if I went out to get a job. They'd look me up and they say, the guy's insane. He's an insane guy. And that's what happens. You cannot put up a defense against these people. They won't pay attention and they will fail you. I mean, these teachers fail people. They just say, you're a failure. So why am I a failure? I asked you about this. I asked you, well, we don't do that. What if it's true? It doesn't matter. We don't do that here. As a matter of fact, I'm going to show you something that's even crazier than this. It's about physics at Yale. And the guy, I like the guy, but he came right out and he said, don't worry, because nobody knows what we're doing here, so just say what I tell you to say and you'll do fine. All right, now I took courses literally everywhere. University of Geneva for physics, Rice for chemistry. I've done a bunch of Yale things. It's just all the same nonsense. All I wanted to go there for was to get feedback. And every single one of them, outside of University of Geneva, they listened because I showed them all the evidence, and I was a student there, so they had to listen to me. And I went to Johns Hopkins for genomics, and the same thing happened. They wouldn't listen. But this guy here, at least he's honest. Now, I don't want to degrade him, but he's telling them the truth. He said nobody understands. Even Feynman, the guy that everybody's supposed to listen to him, he says, I don't know what I'm doing. Listen to this.
So this is a very exciting day for me, because today we're going to start quantum mechanics, and that's all we'll do till the end of the term. Now, I got bad news and good news. The bad news is that it's a subject that's kind of hard to follow intuitively, and the good news is that nobody can follow it intuitively. Richard Feynman, one of the big figures in physics, used to say no one understands quantum mechanics. So in some sense the pressure is off for you guys, because I don't get it and you don't get it and Feynman doesn't get it. The point is, here's my goal. Right now I am the only one who doesn't understand quantum mechanics. In about 7 days all of you will be unable to understand quantum mechanics. Then you can go back and spread your ignorance everywhere else. That's the only legacy a teacher can want. So,
well, they got good legacy. And I've shown all of the quantum mechanics, the light experiments we did. We accelerated, right? No question whatsoever. Split the black from the white. We can see the photons. And I've shown it over and over and over. Same thing. Refuse to engage. Academia. I have hundreds of videos about this. And this is from pulsed red laser. Light. These are the particles of light, and we can photograph them, and they are doing the same thing at CERN now using CMOS. That's what we use, complementary metal oxide semiconductor silicates. That's what we use to see these. It's right from a cell phone. This is back in 2012, 2013, 2014, and all these experiments were being done. By 2015, all this was done. And at Fermilab, they were finding the exact same particles, only they had no idea where they came from, because they started with huge things that just made a big mess. We started with this. When we put this and accelerate it, and yes, you can accelerate light. That is light. It's a photon of light. And it's concussing with other little light particles that are in front of it. And as it keeps going forward and forward into the Venturi, it accelerates it. And Venturis are known accelerators. It's not a big thing to understand that. And it gained energy because it accelerated. If you accelerate something, it's gaining energy. It has to gain energy. And then as it started concussing with its own reverse waves, just like all these are, it exploded. And when I say exploded, it created fission and fusion. And in the middle is raw white electron neutrinos. Here it is right here. You see black muon neutrino? That's the black ball. You see electron neutrino? That's the white ball. And the white ball goes into showers in Cherenkov radiation. They do that by nuclear water hitting heavy particles, and they see these showers. And they call them electron showers, which they are, because the electrons have a big field. So when they hit into other electrons, they just push everybody into a big, and that's what you have here, like an explosion. And it literally is an explosion. That's a subatomic, which is in the nucleus. So it's a nuclear, subatomic, smaller than an atom. It's in the nucleus, so it's a nuclear explosion. The black separated from the white. And then it came back together. That right there is the blast zone of a subatomic nuclear explosion, which creates fission. And when it comes back together, it's fusion. That's what happens in a nuclear bomb. There it is right there. So I've shown all the things that I wanted to say, and straight across the board, academia will not respond. The people, this is from Fermilab. This is from Don Lincoln at Fermilab. And he called me all kinds of names and says, we'll never look at the thing you have to present. I said, Don, the same thing you're looking at, but only we use light so we can see this. And he was not elegant the way he handled it. And I wasn't either. You know, I just get frustrated and I get upset and I start getting kind of aggressive. But that's just the way it is. I mean, I'm not violent aggressive. I just, war of the words, let's call it that way. Because all they can do is say, no, I'm not going to listen. No, bring it here. And that's, as I just showed you, that's what we hear day after day. And it's because they don't want to be proven wrong. And once they are proven wrong, that interrupts funding. That's really what the whole thing is about. I found that virtually everything has to do with money. I'm going to leave it at that. It's time for us to get back to the reality of the world we live in, this Triassic business, the Great Flood, God, religion, Jesus Christ. What is real, what isn't real? We've been taught so much to deny all that stuff. There's just insanity to even talk about it. And now it's shown to be pretty damn real. So it's up to you. I love you all. I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you. Bye.